headline news analysis. And we're back to discuss some of these trending national headlines. We're brought to you at 7 o'clock. My name is Adedayo, Adeyemi.
I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us on the headline news this morning. Good morning to you, Nicholas.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
Oh, fine, thank you.
How was your trip down here?
Well, fine.
All right, let's get into the stories. But before that, the views to be expressed is not in any way the position of FlowFM 92.7 or the staff therein, but is expressed by our in-house analyst, Nicholas Uwerunonye. And to also remind you that we're streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook this morning at FlowFM 927. So you can get on any of these apps and get on the live action happening in the studio right now.
A lot of interesting stories to touch on, and because let's begin by, also joining the rest of Nigerians to celebrate yet another big feat.
Yeah.
From able women. I was reading about a particular woman from this. I love history books, so I was reading this particular story of a woman from Zaria. That's Gambo Shawaba, a very tough woman.
Yeah, Gambo Sawaba.
Yeah, Gambo Shawaba, and of course, Shawaba means freedom, and all of the things she did and how she stood against oppression, the British, some of those emirs, and then while the men were cursing at the streets and the people were giving us so much love. That is to say, there have been great feat achieved by women in Nigeria, in Africa. Look at the Tigress again. Putting Nigeria on the global stage, and of course, and that's going to be like, what are women doing in Nigeria? We're winning titles.
We're winning titles,
100.
exactly.
And getting rewarded as well too.
And of course, and putting the guys to shame.
Let's not go that route.
No, let's go that route. But if we need to ginger our guys up, but don't forget the Super Eagles are on the brink of being eliminated.
Eliminated, for the World Cup.
I said this the other time. I said, look, we have fantastic players as guys, but they are not putting in as much of the spirit of Super Eagles that we used to know in those days. And this woman are showing them the way to do things. And honestly, no reward is too big for this woman. If that's the only thing we need to ninja our guys up, we need them. We need to have her.
All right. So the president has rewarded the Tigress with $100,000, cash gifts.
I think the same exact rewards
the exact reward that the Super Falcons got.
That's a very good one. Except that there has been a lot of comments and a bit of criticism on why it has to be dollar denominated. I think that is a very strong point. I think it would have been. I think that is a bit disloyal to our currency. I think the president should have made it in naira. You understand? And of course, because you're going to dig deep into the National Reserve. I mean, the Forex Reserve. You need to get the dollars out, but you can give the same equivalent in naira, and I think it would have been better. At least what's ours is ours. But the gifts, in fact, I think they should even do more for the women folk. Because like I said yesterday, when you look at the trajectory of that, that particular team. Considering the fact that it's been coached by a woman, it says a lot. It says a lot about the resilience of women. You mentioned Gambo Sawaba. There are so many. In fact, there is still one in the north that has so much respect. I think her name is Najatu. Najati Muhammad. That is another solid firebrand of a woman, an Amazon of a woman. Anytime she speaks, I just listen to that woman. So we have them in abundance in Nigeria, and platforms such as this is what gives them expression. If they cannot be in politics, but they can be in sports. If that's the only way we can rejuvenate our sporting industry, please let's go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is a big challenge to the male folk and the Super Eagles, and of course, a lot of people want to feel like, it's a good time to be a woman in Nigeria, especially with.
It's a great time.
It's a great time to be a woman in Nigeria. It's not just because of sports. We've seen good foundation laid by the incumbent governor of Kwara State, and of course you can see the involvement of women. He did something that has never really been done in Nigeria for a very long time. And then you've seen other states follow suit like that.
Exactly.
I think the door is open for women to just exploit and take the seat. Get on the plane and fly the plane. That's all.
That's it. Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak has, since his first time, he has demonstrated, that willingness to develop the women folk. Don't forget, he's the first governor that made it an affirmative action that the number of commissioners must be about 45%
of women.
So he's the first person to make that, and I think he gazetted into, I think there's either a policy statement or a legislation to that effect, and that is fantastic. And even in the sporting arena, our squash is dominated by women. One of the women national coach for the under, for the girls, is a woman, Magaji. A relative of the squash legend himself, who was the executive chairman of the sports commission. A lot in terms of women participating in sports. Look at the number 3 badminton world para badminton player. Is a lady.
Yes,
from
Nigerian,
Kwara State. And the state government did a lot in supporting her, to get to that level. So, there's so much lessons to be learned, from what the Kwara State government is doing. Honestly.
All right, we hope other governors will pick up on it as well.
We sincerely hope so.
All right, let's move to another news story real quick. And this is on the West African Examination Council that just released the WAEC results for 2025. And they revealed that only 38.32% of the 1,969,313 candidates who sat for the exam obtained credits in at least 5 subjects, including English language and mathematics, a sharp drop from 72.12% in 2024. And NUT, the NANS, and NAPTAN have attributed the decline to multiple factors such as poor infrastructure, lack of teacher motivation, inadequate learning materials, and poor conditions during the examination.
Well, that is quite a sharp drop and quite sad, really. On the one hand, we've been complaining about children out of school. Now we're talking about the standard of education dropping again. So for me, I think, those factors mentioned are not the main factor. I think it's the economy that is affecting everything. And especially in the area of teacher motivation. You need to see what private schools are doing. As we speak right now, I think in terms of secondary education, private secondary schools are going toe to toe with government, in terms of numbers, with the government establishments, and it's very expensive running schools, and there is no subsidy coming from government. Look, we've been saying this countless number of times. I think that the federal government and the state government should see school educational system as a social service, and to a very large extent bring in what you call subsidy in one way or the other, either in tax, either in provision of teaching materials, either in the area, so that you can really, go there and do thorough check on what they are doing. You can't imagine in terms of tax, what schools pay in Kwara State. You need to go there and ask them. These guys are sweating and they have to pay salary. They have to motivate their teachers. And no subsidy whatsoever is given. And these schools are located in places that are far flung, that you don't even have common access areas to, access routes to all those places. I think, the educational sector is not a place where you just leave it to just the privateers alone. You have to take part in what they are doing. You must be a part of it, because we're talking of children that belong to the school that belongs to government. Every child must count.
Yeah.
That is it. So, I know there was at some point I did ask the suburb boss, in Kwara State, what is being done. He talked about a lot of materials, a lot of training materials, a lot of infrastructure development that is happening in the schools, that they are undertaking, at that suburb level. Of course, that is not WAEC, but that is the foundational level. So he was, he then said that, the law setting up UBE, only takes care of children who cannot afford education, which is quite sensible, really. But again, I think there must be a way of working outside that, because essentially it's about every child being properly educated. So I think within that law, there should be a bit of flexibility. After all, There we have had examples of that. You have the case of what is happening in Edo State now with Okpebolo handing over schools to missionaries and, of course, partnering them. You understand? Partnering them. It has happened in Anambra before, and Lagos State did it. Handed it over to, the former owners of the school. But there's a level of partnership that comes in. You have to subsidize them at some level. If it's in the areas of a unified, teaching equipment that you give to all schools, I don't think it's too much for a state government to handle. So that is why we see some of this decline. Then again, there is another suggestions that have been muted in several instances. Like, when state governments complain about the dearth of teachers, they say they don't have enough teachers, that they don't have enough schools to post teachers. You understand? So what I tell them is that, look, why not hire as much as, especially in all these core subjects like English, mathematics, that schools are in dire need of. You understand? Hire as much as possible, then perhaps post them to, schools that want primary and secondary can come. We have teachers, we subsidize their payment, their transport and things like, give them some allowances so they can. So it's a way of pulling people out of poverty, giving jobs to people who need a job, and then making sure that education is going on in the school, So these are some of the things that I think the stopgap measures that government, should look at. Was it not yesterday I was looking at what Mahatma, that is the Ghanaian president, did, making a tuition fee for first year in Ghana universities free for everybody. You understand? So that is in an investment. That is a huge investment in education, and it's going to pay off in years to come. So we've said this countless number of times. I'm almost sounding like a broken record. That you see, for every dollar you put into education, you get at least $9 in return. But in terms of the human capital development that happens, So I think the WAEC, call, the WAEC result is a wake-up call to government at all levels, both primary, secondary, and the local government.
All right. If we look at all of these factors responsible for these non-performance or non-encouraging performance, especially the core subjects, English and mathematics, where do we put the candidates themselves? Again, can we say there is a lot of distraction, from focusing and then studying properly for the examinations?
Yes, of course, parenting equally is another issue, because I live in an area that is semi-rural, and I see the attitude, of parents to their kids going to school. Most times, when, about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you still see kids, just going about, hawking food and the rest of them. Most times, while on my way, I tend to stop some of them and say, why are you not in school? And they give me one manner of excuse or the other. My mom didn't give me money for this. My shoe is spoiled. I don't have this book. And they said if I don't bring it, they're going to beat me in school. And all those more manners of things. And to another extent is that, to another level is the fact that, since most of them are private schools, there are some conditions they impose on pupils that it's quite frightening. It's more or less like extortion. It's so extortionate. The overall package that you pay at the end of the year might not be anything, but you see, every now and then you see them handing you envelope. They tell you that they want to pay for this, they want to do that, they do that. Where 10,000, 1,000 naira here, 3,000 there, 2,000 here. It's like it's an unending thing until your kids leave the school. So things like that, again, tends to dissuade parents from sending their kids to school. So on the one hand, the public schools are over congested. That is on the one hand. Then the choice of the private, the primary schools the private schools where you have better supervision is way too expensive. So it's like the devil and the blue sea for most parents. So that is one of those things too. And of course, I think, like we rightly mentioned too, the economy is doing a lot of numbers on most homes. It's so severe that most times a lot of parents keep their wards at home to help them in their daily businesses
rather than send them to school. So these are some factors that I think it's making parents do what they do, not encouraging their kids to go to school. All right, 0807 777 9927 is number to call to make a comment on any of the news stories that we've talked about so far. We have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Danielle.
Good morning to you, Mr. Davies. Please go ahead with your comment.
Yes. Oh, okay. How was the night?
Fine, thank you.
You see,
Yeah.
Mr. Nicholas has said a lot of things. You see, one of the problems we have on this issue is the economic problem we face in this country. How many parents are capable of buying textbook for their children these days? Few. That's number one. Number two, I think the government schools are not employing teachers based on credit. It is based on who you know and not what you know. That's number two. Number three, on the part of the students themselves, they are not serious. Number four, until when students are demoted, if they don't pass in this class, that's another one. Until we return the corporal punishment in the school, that's number five. Thank you.
This aspect of demotion, that's a very big talking point. In those days, you fail English and math, you don't get promoted.
Yes.
I recall that
previous class.
Okay, we have a call.
No.
Okay, I recall that when I was doing my youth service, I happened to have served in Umuokpu Community Secondary School, and that was stringently enforced in that community school that year. And you need to see the amount of wailing and gnashing of teeth that happened. It was something, okay.
Sorry to botch you, Nicholas. Yeah. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. What's your name, please, and where you calling from?
Angel Beauty from Molelade.
Okay.
All right, please join the conversation. Okay. I think that sounded like a teenager or something like that. Just wanted to. I'll test the radio someday.
Actually, maybe he wanted to say it sounds like a teenager. Maybe why he doesn't go to school, or he or she doesn't.
They're on holiday right now.
They're on holidays.
Yeah,
they are summer school. I forgot to mention that.
Well,
there's summer school.
There's summer school, but at the same time,
that's another issue.
Yes.
You understand? When do they get to rest? When do they get to, when do they get to have holiday?
From all of everything throughout the year, and then even when they have the long break, they still have to do summer school.
Exactly. So this could be some of the contributing factor. But like I was saying in what Mr. Davis from Shao said, this issue of demoting and is a very big talking point, because I think there is no consensus on it. There are some schools of some theorists who say that encouragement all the time is what a child needs. You need to always push them. Demotion brings about humiliation, and it's not a very good, it's not a good way of encouraging people to go to school. There is a point you demote them, they just drop out and feel, well, school is not meant for me. Yeah, and things like that. It has happened. There are surveys that have shown that. But again, when you weigh it against what the school has turned into now, because what you see is that you even hear proprietors of schools telling teachers that, look, there is no demotion that is going to happen in this school. Okay, he doesn't. Okay, just push him, let him go to this. Let us garbage in, garbage out. So so these are some of the factors that you're saying.
All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. What is your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Shitta. I'm calling from Sango.
All right, Shitta, please go ahead with your comment.
Yes, my own comment this morning on education stuff. You see, right from onset, our government has never seen the education system in Nigeria as their responsibility. And we get to a particular point that the parents discovered that those few that go to school that time, they are securing good job. So the parents started, training their kids with their hands and, money. But it gets to a point again, when they even go to school, there is no job again. So all those uneducated parents, they are not discouraged. They are even at all, if I, labor myself, send the kids to school, thereafter he must have finished, will still be looking for a job. So, and that is the more reason why the uneducated parents,
they don't see any meaningful thing, sending their kids to school again. That is why you see the young kids, walking around the street during the school time, and, you see it everywhere. So I think it's high time for our government not to abandon. Fine, there are some parents that will, whether there is job or no job, they will still send their kids to school. But there are a lot of uneducated parents. They don't even see any reason why the kids will go to school any longer. So that's why our government needs to stand up and ensure, especially the basic education. They have to work on it. That is my comment this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shitta from Zango. Well, he's talking about the basic education, which is, I think, there's a motive for setting up the UBEC, Universal Basic Education, Commission, and all of these things. But again, how well implemented has that been? At least if every Nigerian, to have access to basic education.
To a very large extent, I think that that scheme has served a good purpose, but whenever you see glitches, whenever you see problem, I think it's more of a human factor. You will always have elements of human factors that will derail in a well-intended program. And that goes to show that we are all imperfect. The best design scheme, is susceptible to human weakness. Here and there. But again, you see, that is not to say that the federal government should just sit on its oars, just rest on its oars. I recall that in 2019, during the presidential debate, Atiku said something, about the UBEC thing, that if this is not to campaign for him, but I think he made a very strong point that there is a need, to take that law setting up UBE, UBEC, back to the National Assembly, to increase, the funding, and counterpart funding from states, that the states too, it should be increased to such a level and make it conditional. There are certain percentage of state government money, that should come from federal government. The moment you don't do your counterpart funding, we deduct it from source and put it into that so that kids can go to school. You understand? So, and it made a lot of sense, because you see, the truth is, for social services like this, we have always had, successive government have seen it as just a secondary, whereas it should be primary. Countries that develop put a lot of premium in their educational and health sector. But our case is so different because it's only when we have money to spare that we push money there. And that shouldn't be so. And I think either of the two last callers did say something about the quality of people you recruit into the school system. People just go there because they don't have a job. You understand? They don't have a job, because since, there is no job elsewhere, so let me go and teach. That is what you have.
All right, let's take some comments from WhatsApp and from Facebook as well. This message says, it's disheartening to see the WAEC result for 2025, as many of us parents have been forced to rely on private schools for quality education. The reality is stark, with SS1 school fees in Ilorin, Kwara State reaching nearly 400,000 naira per term. Unfortunately, many private schools have subpar standards, and furthermore, over 80% of education graduates are reluctant to teach due to poor compensation, with private secondary school teachers often earning less than 200,000 naira. Parents inadvertently enable malpractices by seeking shortcuts, such as miracle centers in villages. Mike from Ilorin.
All right, thank you, Mike.
That's a solid point that he has made. And the issue of compensation. It was yesterday. I was just reading. I thought it was going to come up in our discussion. This issue of the middle, what do you call it? Middle level. What do you call it? You have the middle class. What makes up a middle class? The lower middle class, you must earn at least between 300,000 and 500,000. Now, you see, the teacher should be in the middle level. That is from 750 or 500,000 naira to 750. That's what a teacher. That's the minimum a teacher should be. So, how many people can pay 500,000 naira to a teacher, even in government schools? None. even in the so-called private schools that are so expensive. I'm not sure they pay up to that. The only place where you pay up that kind of money is if it's, we are talking of this international school, Ivy League schools. That is where you earn that kind of money. And how many are there? So that tells you that, again, it has to do with the economy. If teachers are not well remunerated and not well compensated, there's little motivation to put extra effort into getting the kids, to understand what they are being taught. That's it.
Let's take another comment from Facebook. Dr. Mrs. Umaoli Bar from Owerri says on the WAEC released results, the truth of the matter is that education is burning right now, and the blind and deaf can see and feel it. As long as our children are not reading and are not serious with their studies, they will continue to fail all available examinations until government desists from politicizing, interfering, and toying with the education and glorious destinies of our children. Will make no headway. How much is budgeted for education? Has the UNESCO 26% subscription on education been met in one quarter? How are the teachers being taken care of? There are no incentives. There's no motivation. Let there be a total overhaul of our educational system, and I suggest a declaration of emergency on education.
I think the very least that UNESCO you can put into education, that is the budget, I think it's about 18%. 1826. One of them, the health, I think it's between 1826. I'm not sure we're even making up to 10%. No, we're not in terms of budgetary allocation to education. So that is another factor. The quality that demonstrates, how much we take education in Nigeria, how much more than it is to our government.
0807-777-9927, and that number connects you directly to make your comments and also share the story that should affect you this morning. Let's quickly take a look on this last story, and then we conclude this morning. And that is coming from the All Progressives Congress, alleging that former Kaduna State Governor Malam Nasir El-Rufai is working to install former Vice President Atiku Abubakar as the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, ahead of the 2027 general election. Now, the presidency is currently zoned to the south, as the accusation follows El-Rufai's recent criticism of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration during a political meeting in Sokoto State.
Well, you see, honestly, they could take on El-Rufai on the basis of criticizing their principle. But you see, saying that he's working for somebody to emerge, I think that's voyeurism. It's political voyeurism. That is, you sit in your own bedroom and start peering into what is happening in another man's bedroom. No, that is, El-Rufai is free to work for whatever he wants to work for, whether for Atiku, for Obi, or for who is Amechi, in the ADC or whatever they. But I think that for me, I think that is more for distraction. You understand? We were just talking about a lot of economic issues that I think they should really get involved with, so that they can put Nigeria out of poverty. Yeah.
All right. Well, our time is fast spent. I will not be able to take any more comments. But what are your closing thoughts on all of the issues
Well,
today?
you see, this education thing gets to
in
me
a few
really.
seconds.
Yeah. So, and I think all hands must be on deck, especially government. They must take a second look at what is happening, what WAEC has said.
All right, then. Thank you very much for joining us on the headline analysis this morning. The views expressed is not in any way the position of FlowFM 92.7 or the staff therein, but is expressed by our in-house analyst, Uwerunonye. We're back to you tomorrow from 8 o'clock to 8:30, God willing. I am Danielle Shitta-Bey.
And I am Adedayo. Adeyemi. We'll continue with the rest of the Flow Breakfast Show. Good morning.